Well, hello there. We are back. It's your favorite mother daughter squad. I know you guys have been missing us, and we certainly missed you, but we have been so busy just enjoying life, loving on our family, enjoying being out again. But it's good just to come back and share just a little bit more information with you guys about boundaries. Because, as we said before, we are really serious about our mental health and just giving tips to other people on how they can improve their mental health.
Yes, last time we talked about balancing it out. And so then we like to keep things flowing pretty evenly. So this time we want to make sure we stay within the realms of the topic. And the topic today is going to be boundaries. And we're going to talk, we will probably talk a little bit about walls as well. But we're going to start with boundaries. And Sonia's going to start us out.
Well, I guess we can talk about the difference between boundaries and walls. Boundaries require vulnerability. If you set boundaries in your professional life, in your personal life, that's much different than a wall. When you put a wall up around yourself, you're protecting yourself from being vulnerable. So that's the difference between walls and boundaries. Boundaries are important in all aspects of your life, and they're not easy. That's why I say they require a level of vulnerability, because it's not easy to be vulnerable um, around anyone, let alone people that you are close to. I think it's hardest to be vulnerable around people you're close to, because you care about what they think and you care about how they feel when it comes to the boundary that you may set for them. And I am by no means had the boundary situation down, because it's difficult. It's very difficult to set those boundaries.
It's difficult, but it's very necessary. And if you start with your boundaries, if you have a difficult time setting boundaries, then just start with one particular person or one particular task at a time. But once you set your boundaries, all you're saying is that these are limitations. Basically, it's a border that you don't allow people to cross. Because sometimes people just come through, not necessarily meaning deceit or anything, but they are used to taking over. And so you have boundaries that protect you. And you have boundaries that protect you in your personal life, in your emotional well being, in your relationship, even in your financial life. You have to have boundaries, because sometimes it's people realize, oh, you got it, you can afford it. That's not the issue. That's not the issue. So have boundaries in all aspects of your life.
I think
Agree?
I definitely agree. Some of the hardest boundaries that you will have are, like I said before, in your personal life and also financially, particularly when it comes to some family members. It's very hard to set that boundary and say, okay, enough is enough. I'm not going to spot you anymore, because you don't ever want to come across as that you are not willing to help somebody, but you also need to know that I need to clip their wings so that they can fly a little bit. But when you think about the boundaries that you set uh, for other people, remember that you're also setting boundaries for yourself. And when you set that boundary for yourself, you can't cross it, because you don't expect them to cross it, so you can't cross it either.
Well, and then too, in today's, I guess, array of life, we have a lot of people that they're roommates. They have roommates. They share housing, and that's definitely an opportunity for you to set boundaries, because uh, even if it's a really good friend, you get along well, but there should be certain boundaries of things that you do not want other people involved in, that involves you. You don't want them crossing it. And so make that clear so that you don't have to get all emotional and bent out of shape about it. So those are some things that you really need to discuss, maybe before moving in, or even after you move in and you get comfortable, and then uh, things start to get on your nerves. Well, don't just suffer in silence. That's where your boundaries are. That's part of your mental health as well. When you suffer in silence, just have a conversation, not being rude or angry or any of that stuff, but just set the boundaries. Just start out by saying, these are things that that are really important to me. We have a good relationship. We're really enjoying. It's good for us both financially. It's good for us to have company and that type thing. But here's some things that I would really like to just keep to myself. And one of them might be time. When you come in, you've worked hard, and it's time. You don't always want to have that conversation with someone. You want to go to your room, relax, and that's it. And so when you have boundaries that are respected, because with any boundary you have to have respect. When you have boundaries that are respected, then your friends understand that, or they should understand that.
And I think your boundaries can help you identify your triggers. And let's be clear, triggers are different from things that just get on your nerves. There's always going to be something that just gets on your nerves, and you're never going to be able to completely, alleviate those small things. And it couldn't be big things that get on your nerves, but triggers are things that cause you to completely change your behavior. It just changes your whole outlook. Sometimes a trigger can just change your day. So be mindful in what your particular triggers are, because anything, literally anything, can be a trigger. And if you already know that about yourself, that's when you need to go back to your own personal boundaries and adhere to that. And you may have to sometimes remind someone, hey, that's not really working for me, or that's not really what I need. Or you may just need to tell somebody, this is what I need from you. I prefer that you do this with me, or you don't do this with me. You have to be very clear and don't assume people know what it is you want or what it is that you appreciate or don't appreciate, because nobody's a mind reader. And I think a lot of times we're so concerned about offending someone or maybe even hurting their feelings that we, like my mama said, suffer in silence. Now, neither really one of us are ones to suffer in silence. And I'm working on leveling up my communication, because every time you set a boundary or you express something, there's a certain way to do that. So in setting your boundaries, that's just another thing you need to consider is, what is my communication like? Or do I need to level up my communication? And I think at some point we all can level it up, because every disagreement doesn't have to be a confrontation, but when you set boundaries for people and they don't like those boundaries, they will try to turn it into a confrontation, when really that's not it at all.
Another aspect of boundaries is that we're in a time in our life where there's so many things going on, and so our medical aspects, that's a boundary. You don't necessarily go up to people and start talking about their medical history. So if that's, don't open yourself up for that, because if you open yourself up for that, then the best way out, and you don't want to talk on it, just say, I'm not prepared to talk about that right now, and keep it moving. So, but if somebody just keeps pushing, that's when you have to put your foot down and really push back and just say, look, I'm not going to talk about this, not today, and I don't know if I ever will, but when I do, I will let you know. Now, you might think that sounds a little rude, but you just have to just put it out there. And boundaries can be, I can remember when I was in about the 8th or 9th grade, I was when I started looking at this topic. I had boundaries. And one of them, if you talk to any of my sisters, they'll tell you, don't look in my purse. That was a boundary. Now, I had nothing in my purse in the 8th grade, not even a dime, but it was mine. And it was a boundary I didn't want anybody crossing. So right now, they'll tell you, do you have so-and-so? And if my purse is anywhere close to, they bring it to me today. They do not.
I look in her purse
look
for
in my
anything.
purse. That's one of my boundaries. Regardless of how petty or small you think it is, it's yours. It's yours. And that's the same thing about relationships as well. A lot of times people think just because we're friends, they can just take that extra step. And that extra step sometimes means, no, you need to back up. You really need to back up, because that's not going to work for me. And then, too, it's so much out there. Boundaries with our sexuality, boundaries with We do a lot of online dating, and so those you have those kind of boundaries, things that come up in online conversations. If that's not something you're comfortable with talking about to someone online, then don't talk about it. Start them out, let them know that, okay, we're going to get to know each other better, but right now I'm not prepared to go into that. I'm not prepared to talk about that. So, and then if you do connect with this person on a long-term basis, then at least they know where you're coming from. You're not hiding anything.
And also, when you set your boundaries, don't be offended or get your feelings hurt when someone else sets theirs for you. Because it's a two-way street. A lot of times people expect something that they're not willing to give, and you have to make sure that that person is not you. Because, like Mom said, so much goes on now. So I know that it's it's very hard to trust what a person says, but you can trust what they do. People will show you who they are every time. And sometimes you give them too many chances to show you exactly who they are. But you can trust what a person does more than what they say. So if they have given you a particular boundary, don't get offended, don't get in your feelings about that, because everyone has the right to do that. And I think sometimes we get too familiar with people, and when we get too familiar, we get too comfortable saying things to them, and it's just it doesn't make anybody feel good, because you don't want to hurt their feelings, but you're really mad about it, and then you let it fester and you let it fester, and before you know it, it has blown up, and it's something that happened really a while ago. It's just you were upset about it, you didn't set any boundaries, and you didn't let anybody know how you felt about it.
And a lot of times that's what really puts us in I guess in a mode where we start to pull away and we become uncomfortable, dissatisfied, fearful, apprehensive. Start every day. There are days when you just don't feel good. You just don't feel very calm. You just feel kind of upset. You don't know why. That's normal. That's just some things come over you. But try assessing your time during the day and assessing your activities. And not only that, assess your mood after you have been around certain people. So start doing those kinds of assessments.
If your mood changes after they walk out the door, or when they walk in the door, that might not be the person that you need to be around.
And all of those things that we say, oh, this is just, little stuff. It happens. It happens, but it also happens to build up. And it has to take an effect, and it will take an effect on you mentally. So there is a build up. But you are your own best person to assess your life. Not your spouse, not your family, not your friends, but you. You are the best person to assess what's going on with you. And then once you come up with what you perceive to be the balance that you need in your life, the things that trigger you, the things that make you unhappy, the things that make you happy, the people that you feel uncomfortable around, that's when you take action and you figure out what you need to do to move forward. And it might not be an easy thing, but you figure out what you need to move forward, because you are the person that has to be able to prevail. You are your best, medicine. You're the best medicine that anybody can ever have. Your attitude, and how you assess your situation.
And the only person that can stop things that make you uncomfortable or actually hurt you in some respects, that person is you also. But in doing that, you also have to be willing to take a self-inventory. So if you know that you've crossed a boundary that someone set for you, you need to own that, and you need to acknowledge, hey, listen, I apologize. I didn't mean it that way. I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry. I apologize and I'm sorry goes a long, long way, because what anybody wants is just to know that they feel validated. So sometimes it's you, yourself, you cross the boundary. And instead of getting upset in your feelings, damaging your relationship even further, just acknowledge that, yeah, I shouldn't have done that, shouldn't have said that, I apologize. And then already kind of have an idea of what you want to do. I mean, everybody knows my mom is my best friend, but she also knows when I decide what I'm going to do or what I'm not going to do. That's pretty much it.
Yeah,
And
it is.
sometimes it works out, sometimes it blows up. But I've learned just to own it. It's me, good, bad, and different. That's what it's gonna be. And I think you need to at least give yourself that too, because none of us is perfect. Everybody makes mistakes, and sometimes our boundaries, they change, they switch up. But if you notice, it's always some drama when a certain person is crossing those boundaries, and even when you call them out about it, the drama is even more. You might want to change your company. You might want to not only level up your communication, but sometimes you got to level up the company that you keep. Everybody, my mama told me a long time ago, everybody cannot go everywhere with you. Where you're going, everybody's not going to be able to go all those places.
And when you get there, you won't see them or anybody that looks like them. So just be mindful of that and accept that. And then, too, um, just let people be who they are, too. We talked about you setting boundaries. And then, as Sonia said, you got to be able to acknowledge the fact that sometimes you got to accept boundaries. So that means that you got to accept boundaries from other people. Let them be who they are. If whatever they want to do, if it's legal and if it matches up with congeniality or whatever, just let them do it.
Stay out of people's business. That's what you can do. It's so hard. Sometimes people just won't mind their business, and you get all upset about something that doesn't concern you anyway. Learn to just stay out of people's business. And again, that's a lesson I learned, staying out of people's business, because I will tell you right now, I don't know. That is not my business. That does not concern me. Learn to mind your business. And if you are so busy minding your own business, you do not have time to be crossing boundaries in other people's business.
And then remember, too, with your boundaries, you don't necessarily have to change just because other people are crossing your boundaries. That's on them. That's not on you. You just look at yourself, dig deep down within, and if you like who you are, then hey, you're good. You don't really need to align, realign, anything. If it's misaligned, then you're the one to correct it.
Well, I think that's just about it. We are going to try to more frequently just jump on, and have some conversation, because these are conversations that we all have, and we just have them amongst each other. We don't necessarily have them publicly, on a Facebook Live. But the first time we did this, we got such an amazing reaction, and people were like, "I love to hear, you and your mom's viewpoint. I love to hear y'all talk about things." So I decided, okay, well, we could talk about things. So we're gonna do it, more often. But I'm still working a 9 to 5 every day. My best friend here is retired, so she has a little bit more
enjoying every minute of it. Yes,
but it is enjoyable, and I love the comments. So even if you're not live with us right now, or you're watching it later on, because I'm gonna load this to my YouTube page. Would you go please like my YouTube page? What do you do? Subscribe to my YouTube page. It's Sonia Palmer. You'll see my picture pop up. But when we do these, I'm gonna load them on there. And if there's something you'd like for us to talk about, drop that in the comments too, because we got something to say about everything. It's really not a whole lot that my mama does not have an opinion on. And I guess that's a good thing too, as long as, like I say, you remember you got those boundaries. People gonna have their opinion,
Exactly.
but it is what it is.
Last time we closed out with just stay healthy. Try to protect your mental health, your physical health. Emotionally, try to stay positive. And we closed out with taking care of mind, body, and soul. Today, I want you to try to put this in your notes as well. Walk with the wise and become wise, because a companion of fools suffers harm. Think about that.
We'll see y'all next time.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye-bye.